sixth page on this prayer book, and on the blue one, it's on the first page itself, the first verse. So we recite it 3 times, and then we will recite the root text of the 8 verses of Training the Mind itself. Kishima is going to recite it in Tibetan, and you can try to read the verses as it is written in English. So while Kishima recites the Tibetan, you can simultaneously try to read the verses in English. 말 비나라 이처럼 된샤나 되기라. 근데 그런서 인지나라 된지는 시죠. Okay, then we will read the verse in English, since and we can recite it together by thinking of all sentient beings as more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. For accomplishing the highest aim, I'll always hold them dear. Whenever I'm in the company of others, I will regard myself as the lowest among all, and from the depths of my heart, cherish others as supreme. In every action, I'll watch my mind, and the moment destructive emotions arise, I'll confront them strongly and avoid them, since they will hurt both me and others. Whenever I see ill-natured beings, or those overwhelmed by heavy misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I had found a treasure. Whenever someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Even when I, or in whom I place great hopes, mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as a true spiritual teacher. In brief, directly or indirectly, I'll offer help and happiness to all my mothers and secretly take upon myself all their hurt and suffering. I will learn to keep all these practices untainted by thoughts of the 8 worldly concerns. May I recognize that all and without attachment gain freedom from bondage. So, Tashdile to everyone, greetings to everyone. So then we will continue to address the kind of sharings that we had yesterday, and most of it kind of touches on the text. Most of it kind of touches on with what the text will teach us as we kind of explore the root text itself. But then one of us shared about how like they want to be a more kind person by improving our behaviors. So when we talk about improving our behavior, as we discussed already, it is through the three doors of the body, speech, and mind, through which we can begin to improve our behavior. And most importantly, we need to be aware and mindful of our intentions all the time. So we need to always look at the mind and be aware of what goes on in the mind. So then one of us also shared about how they have some experience and exposure to the Theravada tradition and had the opportunity to study in the Theravada traditions. So when we talk about Theravada and Mahayana traditions, because the Mahayana tradition encompasses what we call the high practices of Vajrayana, then it doesn't make sense to say that the Mahayana tradition, because it encompasses some high practices like Vajrayana, is more superior than the Theravada tradition, because we need to build up our practice step by step. So this is like a staircase through which we climb up to higher practices. So it's very good that you took the time to kind of study this tradition as well. So it doesn't matter in the course of our practice whether we aim towards something higher or if we start from a basic kind of appreciation of Buddhism itself. So this is a very good thing to do, to expose yourself and try to take the time to study like the Theravada tradition as well. And then moving on, the same person shared about how they want to learn a little bit more about bodhicitta. So then as we already kind of addressed this, when we talk about achieving bodhicitta, then there are two ways of generating this altruistic intention in our mind stream. And we talked about how the first one is the process of equalizing and exchanging the self for others, and the other one is the 7 precepts of fruits and causes. So maybe I didn't really discuss the first one in great detail, but the text touches upon that as we move on with the text. So then one of us shared about how they want to develop this practice of altruism and this intention of altruism, and also about how one should look at oneself in such acts of altruism. So then before we begin to develop such an altruistic intention, and before we begin important that just as the negative deeds spring from the three doors, then the source, then the virtuous things that we do and things of benefit for others also come from the three doors. And the most important is the intention from our mind. So if we develop the intention first, then we can begin to apply ourselves through speech and body to help others. So this is very important to recognize first. So if we have a good intention and we have developed a good intention, genuine intention to help others, then physically through our body we can look at animals who are about to fall into danger and try to help them physically. And then when we look at small bugs, they're about to be they are in our path, and they are at the risk of being stamped on by other people. Then we can try to put them in a safer place. These are the small acts through which we can begin to try to be more altruistic in our behavior. And through the doors of speech, we can try to console mentally disturbed people, and then we can try to help other people who are under suffering through like good words of advice or consolation or support. So this is the manner in which we can try to begin to be more altruistic in our behavior.
Can I ask a question? We talked yesterday about intentions, and I wondered if also doing good things is intention a big part of that? Because if my intention is to benefit others is one thing, but if my intention is that people will like me or praise me or see me as whatever, if my ego is there, does that influence the karma as well?
Tini gyewa dhruve lo kulung sachimbu kulung samakwe kechimbo le sungyora. Tini ni mishinda la pentaya che du kulung yunasra, gyewa dhruve dhansra, mishinda gyewa chi dhruva tanyo ji yabola yo mishinda ingalai ngawchu chi yon sambe kulung chi ge ni penpa dhruve nasra, tela ni le chumde di khande dhruve yoris.
Didiri tanzo jiten chuje le dhanra. Ti kasi nazo chi ye yabo changal tara rayo samdi kono no sarra. Chidangi korangi chi jala tewa inare, rupa chewa inare, te gizo igire te kono di pe nojuru. Ta kono namba taba chi pagi di dungi di seya shi penbi samba chi shiwa ina, ti suzo la penbi che ra. So la kala ta gyawas maa sarwa. Ji ngala keda mure mi chumbara igre mi yapo dulai ti tes kono di amaru marujra.
So then when we talk about the intention itself, then the intention should be pure in all its aspect. It should not be tainted by what we call the 8 worldly concerns, the intention or the motivation, wherein we try to do something out of expectation that people will praise me or people will look up to me. Then the intention is not pure in all its aspect. It's already been tainted by mundane concerns about praise, blame, and so on and so forth. So of course, the root virtue that you accumulate with pure intention and without pure intention makes a huge difference.
I want to say about that this was in my private meeting with Geshe-la. I asked the same question because I am concerned very much about this thing because I'm a therapist, and as a therapist I want obviously to help the people who come to me, but also I want to be the best, and I want to never fail, and I want to be able to treat everything, and I want people to, and of course it has something to do with myself as well, because it's my ego too. And I was really bothered about my intention. And when I asked him the question, he said, "Don't worry about that, because we have feelings. We have self. This is where we are, and as well as we help others. It's a win-win. It's a win-win. So not to worry about that." And actually, it was very helpful for me to hear it, because I was consuming myself, being occupied with my intention is not pure, my intention is not pure, and I have ego, and what am I going to do with that? And if I have a successful treatment, it's worth nothing, because my intention is not pure, and it really helped me to know that he said it's a win-win. Don't worry about that. So I just want to share it because maybe I don't know, maybe it will help someone else.
뭐 딜라이드 그런 생각도 없어지게 되는 있으라 테라피스트가 니기시 도지람 등님도 기제 중에 있을지 디주비서 뭐 아니다 몸이라 로서로자 미기 간이는 예 니밀라 간 셈기 셈내로 주답지겨라 대지연도 잠바 수수kulung 상마 이메일에들 도서 숙청불리기도스 디디스 부수도 그럴 수 있죠 아니 디디서 뭐 기시 도지람들 대치와디 티스 가이나나 수수 셈나 내가 질레잖아 수수 칠레버지라 당아야 칠레버 약속이 차고요 로지구라 밀라니 주답 약속이 되고요 되게 로지구라스 디연도 잠바니 kulung 상마 메조로 소개도스 기시 도지람들 대치와디 티도 잠바니 지간 제발요 말스 지랑이 레옹에서 두에디 아버지 두데라스 제자니 디데르는 소고도 사무실도 안 받았어
저는 뭐 여보다 지난 고랑이 때문에 고랑이가 나 깨가 전부 채지고 산다는데 니네 고랑이 내가 뒤문에 야버 되게 신발을 팬을 시더라 그냥 내가 콘테스트나 sen hintabale 파기들 팬을 쇼산 내가 제외는 그렇게 깨달아서 이미 컴퓨터 가서 나다래 저기 파라산타 먹어야지 라 수에 붙이는 로전인데 그걸 가지고 더 제외 깨달아서 이게요 깨달 되는 일 제외다 아니 수수이 그런 다섯 나다 제외인데 제보다 깨달 되는 다섯 시간이면 팬도 파기를 팬이 싸면 이제 파기들에 팬 깨달아서 이게 나와서 아주 단대를 해서 간대하고 그랬어 그냥 뭐 춘주가 되는데 내가 저도 개화시간 거죠 지단 흉이 그거라 그런 제바시가다 돈바는데 나라 만진데 쇼가 무슨 실라다 따따따다 지라게 때 미즈 한자로 그래도 다 아주 그거 이니 단다보다 인데다 가장 명하지도 근데 진짜 개발을 필요 아주 신바도 진짜 그거 아무시입니다 또 물론 딜도 그렇죠 다들 인데지 진짜 뭐는 전에 얘기 좀 항상 되게 가면 나나 밀레 네발을 매라 지라게 지도 쉬우시도 제가 그런 게 이들이 잘리는 거 오늘 배워보라 네발을 네바스는 잠을 처음에 나볼래니 무슨들이 저거 공부해 제대 그런 네바 가네 놓고 강의지 티디가 그런게 계제듯이 딱 셈가 매주신 저거라 근데 이거 강의도 층에 예비도 난 그런 거 가래는 되게 저거리나 배분도 좀
So then this makes sense and it's very good that you take this approach too. But then there's a difference in the way that you feel when you have a pure intention and then you have some sort of if you do it out of like striving for sense of recognition or that you will get some praise or you become famous or you need to become famous the best or so on because if you do it with a pure intention that you want to benefit and give the best possible treatment to your patients, then fame, recognition, and all these are just a natural byproduct of this process wherein like you do not really need to worry about it all the time, right? So then there is a difference to our minds if we have a pure intention or if we do it out of a sense of striving for fame or recognition or being the best. So this is the kind of effect of having pure intention, that you do not need to worry about all these things. It becomes a natural byproduct of it. Because I'll give you an example. There is a Tibetan doctor called Tamdin, and he's very famous. And the way he approaches his practice, it's really something. Normally the Tibetan government medical offices or the hospitals, they open only at like 9 or 10. But this doctor, he wakes up at 7:30 and people line up from early in the morning near the door of his house. And then it's even doubtful whether he gets to enjoy breakfast or not for himself. He comes out and people line up and the whole day, he kind of accepts patients. And then even the way that he deals with his patients, he really takes the time to kind of try to give them the proper diagnosis. And then the way he talks to his patients, it's really something. So then, yeah, there are examples like that, and it's evident. It's not. It's evident. It becomes evident not because he strives to be the best, but because he does it out of a pure intention. And then, of course, in the course of your practice, you will meet patients who are aggressive, and you will meet patients who are not so cooperative too. So in those moments, having a pure intention really helps, rather than having this intention that you will get some recognition. And in this moment, pure intention helps in the sense that you want to give him the best treatment and you want to benefit him or her, then the way that you react to such situations it's informed by your motivation.
다들 찍디 가르라나 안되면서 안지들어 가시가지게 슈물려가 제기려가 지라 쇼하고 디수기 내가로 고치 진주가 뭐디 고치 그루야 직소소 무사야 되지라 안지다닐 애네요 만다 따지셔도 진배랑 무시 콜라디 만소기 평화 때문에 저거 되고 뭐라 다른 해드니 콜라도 슈물 되는 해네 고르듯이 진짜 콜라 담아놓으라는 진짜 문에 좀 항상
So then when we talk about the example of the Tibetan doctor, now he's been doing the same thing since we were young and now we've grown up to be adults. So he has been at it for this whole while. And then there are doctors who work in government hospitals and who kind of in the morning open their own private clinics to earn some money and then do the government work later on. But Dr. Tamting has never done that. He has always worked in the government hospital, government clinic his whole life. He doesn't strive to have a private practice to earn some money or so on. So intention matters.
네 직접을 다 가서 배드려는 거지. 네 수수수 간대기 왜 딱지셔야 돼. 네가 이라 전화도 나가지고 어디더라. 네가 시오체 이제 인체다. 다 미치기 걸려나 이제 냠내 치다 시고도 라라. 다 이제 라리가 가서나 이제 다 저기 지기 착바인 테스트 나오러 시리도. 네 이제 라리지 동해질에 미미 텔레 텐데 남아라. 텔레 동해들 텐데 somebody that it tell the 얘기 자고서 다들 하사는 못 보지 되게 그러다. 근데 이질들이 가서 제 동일라 옛날들이 마세로 되나
So then there was also tying into this, there was also a point made about a question raised about how we should look at ourselves when we are trying to engage in altruistic intentions, and how we should really look at our behaviors with mindfulness and awareness. So this ties into the third verse, which we are going to discuss. So we do not really need to address that right now. And now moving on, there were also questions raised about how we should develop compassion in ourselves. And now it's important to understand what do we really mean by compassion, because in our daily lives we have a really confused idea about compassion. We mix compassion with attachment. So if the real nature of compassion and the real quality of compassion is this desire to alleviate other people's suffering, others suffering. When you see someone else suffering, then you find it in your heart unbearable that this person is suffering, and you want to help them alleviate their suffering. This is what compassion simply means.
갈래냐 동반이야 걸로 시시라. 동반이를 지가 얘가 동반이를 지금 음악을 듣는데다 배 띵서고요. 다른 건 공로지 않아 추하지 랑을 추주고 내가 먼저 추 가르지 않아서라. 지금은 방아 요가 상황 저도 샤워도 하시라. 근데 지금 동반이 다른 제도는 이해입니다. 근데 동반이 나와라.
So then one of us also touched on like how they wanted to gain a deeper understanding of emptiness. So this is a tough topic, emptiness, and there are many ways and many interpretations of emptiness. And now maybe if we put it in this way, it could be simple to understand. We can look at all phenomena as not being established by their own power, or like absolutely from their own power. And then then how does it exist? It exists by this imputed designation that we put onto onto phenomena itself. So this is what it means by emptiness if we try to understand it simply.
기타기 돈이래 가서 하산 주민이죠. 마시마 히어로 니셔. 당저 라바로 전에 배는 딜 뉴글에 가서 샤워. 야 뉴글도 배도 동만이래 인디지 요만 내가 친다 이 티고래 먼저 라바스메도 따야더라. 이내야 가서 파 로이가 딴 딜 뉴글에 갔다셔 그래요. 아니 파라모는 나 뉴글에 랑티 스투어 배워시다. 야 파 먼저 봐 따든지 딘 가디 뉴글에 디레 봐 제가 담에 니에 다
So then emptiness, it's sometimes very hard to explain in simple words, and because it's a very complicated topic. But then gross emptiness could be simply understood by giving this example that this is a pen, and the pen itself is not established from the object side itself. That the pen is not established from the objects itself. And then how does it exist? It exists as an imputed designation from our conceptual mind onto the pen. Now when we go on to find that designation, that term pen, then it's unfindable. There is no such pen. As we say, this is the pen, if you really go on to find the pen. So that is what it means if we try to understand it simply.
돈이를 저기 빼먹으셔야 돼. 몇시 먹어라. 이네 당 도로로지 수수 나라로 전화를 오늘 있는 거 뭐. 수수이 그러 단위도 봐. 단위도 그 요라. 네 디버짜가 더 남아 봐. 대대지랑 또 보니까 그래서 그래. 근데 가서 동반이를 와 선으로 딱 몸이야. 가리가리 또 해서라.
So there are many discourses and many teachings about emptiness because it's a vast and profound topic in our text. And I'm not saying that I've realized emptiness, but from my experience, if we try to understand emptiness simply, then this is exactly what it means. I think that we cannot say that the pen does not exist. And then we say that the pen exists just as a designation or a term, and then we go on to find the term itself. Then when we go, it exists as a term. Then we go on to find the pen itself that the term designates. Then it's kind of unfindable. That there is no such pen as we term it. So this is maybe a simple way of trying to understand emptiness. And of course, by repeatedly contemplating on what emptiness means, I think you can try to get at a proper understanding of emptiness. So there's this example that someone once said that I've realized emptiness now, and then the other person asked him, okay, then what does emptiness really look like? And then he said that emptiness looks like a blue thing or a blue aspect of the color. So who knows?
Yeah, so I was reading the commentary on verse 8 and I found it's mostly about emptiness. I found it quite confusing. The analogy with the pen, does that also apply to people or sentient beings? Because no.
Yes.
Oh yeah, so because they're saying that the thing does not exist from its own side. So that also applies to things that have a mind.
Yes.
And so myself, you, we don't exist from our own side. We're all constructed.
So then think about what do you mean by self or myself. say I, me, right?
Okay.
And then where exactly and who exactly is this I? Is it your body? Is it your mind?
Okay, so. Okay,
Difficult.
so you're saying that everything doesn't exist. Like I understand interdependence, that's part of it,
Mhm.
but also everything doesn't exist.
As absolute
Like
things.
everything is just illusion, including mind. No.
So it's not really, it doesn't exist objectively.
Mhm.
You don't exist objectively. None of us, nothing exists objectively.
We feel like we feel this pen has a independent absolute identity.
No.
Yes?
But okay.
No? Okay,
No.
then you feel I have an absolute identity. Independent absolute identity.
Not really.
Then what is your conception of interdependence?
Well, I was confused by the bit about they don't have. Maybe I'm getting the words wrong. That objects, and I guess including people, don't have existence from their own side.
Yes.
So like if everything's like we're in the Matrix, whatever.
What?
If everything's just a delusion, but like we still say minds exist, or we still say minds exist in some way, or objects exist in some way.
Mhm.
So now I'm just more confused. Sorry.
Maybe we will pick this up when we actually.
But it
cover
does.
the-
It is supposed to still apply to people and minds as
Yes.
well. Okay.
all phenomena.
세상 먼저 간진래죠. 점점 얘기 권는 난 권네 난 권네 그래요. 고디 나이 버를 쓰다. 점점 예 권래요. 예 고치 뭐 예 뭐지 나다 뭐이 차대. 라 점점 점점 샘들이래. 점점 점점 로로 샘들이 나이 통화. 네 점점 예 샘들이 이기 샘 다우지지 지여버려 쓰다. 그래서 샤운 깔래하고다 삼다야 보다.
So one way of thinking about it, thinking about emptiness, is try to see how you relate to your body and your mind first. So sometimes when we say like, my head hurts, right? And then there is, you say that there is something else than my head. And sometimes you say, I am hurt, when one part of your body is hurt, right? And then sometimes we say that my mind is not in the right place, thinking that there is a separate person. And then sometimes you say, I am not happy. So think about that, and that way we relate to our mind and body. There is a contradiction there.
전나 가서 기분으로 좀 따와이나라. 이 기분으로 따와이나. 이제 무슨 통만. 고다 깨야지 통. 따와르면 대둘러라. 가. 따와르면 둘러서 되칼라는 고도. 따와르면 통이지. 이 고도 통이지 진짜 따와르면 relana. 고도 따와르면 relana. 따와르면 뭐르면 따와르면. 따와르면 이게 대화에 비게 취시 통도 따와르면 통 좋다야. 가. 띵가나 제가 무슨 따디 동일에 되가 상다야. 얘기 때는 따나 소투에 가려.
So maybe it's better not to expect an explanation of emptiness. Maybe try to think about emptiness. This is better. For example, I'll give you an example. That there is a window pane, a small window, and then I'm sticking my head out of the window. And if someone looks down up from outside, then looking at my head, seeing my head, they say, oh, there's Dao Doma there. So in this instance, we equate the head of Dao Dhamma with Dao Dhamma itself.
But there is no mind without the body and body without the mind in this existence, yeah? Considering this existence, yeah, the way we are. But still there is something that goes on from life to life. Still there is some self that goes on from life to life.
Not self, consciousness.
I don't have the terminology.
Now terminology becomes important.
So what is that goes?
Self is a conception
What is that
that
in me that goes from life to life?
it's a very subtle consciousness. It has no conception of self.
But still it's a self.
No, it's not a self. It doesn't begin to associate with the
It's
body.
in me and I don't know what it is.
It's not in you at that point. It has already departed from your physical body.
But it's my entity. It's in my entity.
There is a huge difference between what mind and mental factors and consciousness we have in this physical body and psychophysical body that we say, than the one that passes on from one life to others.
Yeah, but it's still.
No.
So, where is it?
It's a subtle consciousness. The Sheba Tamorilla Nagonzo Ratrimida, Nitandoyan Tagla Negi, Tagla Jura, Ma Levajura, or Tagaran Sheba Tamodilla Ziguri Lejo.
Yeah, like a comment to that question is, could one understand this thing that goes on from life to life as, so we don't have a self, it's a construct,
Yes.
from many parts, we sort of solidify self, and the thing that goes on from life to life is that attachment to the solid self, rather than having, if we, like, you can compare that to the state of Nibbana, which is sort of no attachment and there is no creation of the self then. The consciousness or mind or this essence just dissipates. So maybe one can understand it, as I understand it, it's our attachments that sort of lead into the next body or the next life form. Could that be?
What do you mean by, why would our attachment move to the next
Yeah,
one?
I don't understand.
Well, like if we like see karma, so
But what is it?
we have karma because of attachments, and those attachments lead us to the next life. So that's just my understanding, or my reasoning around it. So it's more like
The Dishijaka Konzadilla, Sheba Chamadi, Chiva Chimada to the Dizumara, and the Kansal and Chiomara, Tagla and the Kansal and Yomara. Moilamna, the Digimar, Jimmy Chiva to the Euros, and the Kansal Mudzingule like a Shida. The Koilamna, Kansal, I think, and Zuki Taksha Vijay. And Tasha Juji is a Chagin Juji Mamboji Dunera, any Dusha Jujiris. That Shiva Chamo the Madrosha is a murder, the Kansa Gichi, Kansa Lady, Labeo Maris. Shiva Chamo la Kare, Chapa Vici, Wangshu Chimboris. Teachers and Chiva Chimala, Jumichi or Tuburis. Those chin is Samatana DA.
pandoni di energy dala nga zaba his patora ka shinga shinga ndora ndi ka chapar la
What Chapa that Ia Shukchimboris.
chapar ta ko kora enda da nam shi do go ni na zo kora ran chapa yin da yin ha na ta tre ni kora ye ti na ta nam ji de nga do shi yo ne nga ta pa don do pa den ni nga ya ja mai nge la ya ni be lai je ka do shi thon te la chapa chen nga di ni sa je de do do ta lo pa na chapar na na
So the subtle consciousness that passes from one life to other life itself is not absolutely attachment as an affliction. What happens is, the way it is explained is like the subtle consciousness, when the causes and conditions come together, then it begins to see a mother's womb as very attractive, and then it becomes immediately attached to that particular mother's womb.
제선 단단한 데 동반이 그 시디가 삼매 이라 다 삼다고 nga khodo ni nazu ngun je de ne mai bar 제선 어디가 삼다라 동이 nga de lan to to ma de ne de 삼다
So it's tough to kind of immediately get at what we're talking about when we're talking about emptiness, but it always starts with the question with ourselves, like, what is this I that I think so much about? What is this I that I try to relate, and how do I relate to this I? And does this I really exist? If we try to have this kind of questions first, then maybe we can try to get at what emptiness really means.
예망에 나라 주주가 동이를 못 거더라 동이 가는 가르편다 동바이 la 가르편도 래도 챙겨 그런 동반이가 거에는 대차시랑 팀이 참이 nhiệm vụ 라 그것도 동산도 지금 무슨 참말라지 먼저 다시 주변에 이제 좀 미디어가 참이 nhiệm vụ 지 있어서
So then, since a young age, since a young child, I've heard a lot of. I keep hearing about emptiness, 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 and now that I've become a little bit accustomed to the teachings of emptiness, then I really feel that emptiness is a wisdom that really helps us to overcome our afflictions such as anger, attachment, and so on. So I think if you keep trying to understand what emptiness is and try to really contemplate on it, then it is a tool and it is a wisdom that can overcome and subdue our afflictions.
zamzam ji koran la ji ne dan shiba ji chwa la chuba zu den sin de ka zang zu de sarra ani ta ko chuba zu ine zamzam ji su su ge de la shira ji ma ga ma je ni ra ta koran koran sha sha na ya ya ra de le ni ro da da mo de sin ko chuba ji su su ma do ra ani ya te chuba zu ine chira ji ji de ni ji na lab ja ro je de chi ju ma re shi do na ka le re ti pa mo sa ile re do dosa de ji ji dosa ji na ani ya lab ja ro je to
So then, moving on, then one of us shared about how they wanted to know how to handle aggressive situations. I think with aggressive situations. So in this instance, maybe first it's better to have an appreciation for the fact that the way that this person is behaving in this manner depends on a lot of factors, and there are a lot of causes and conditions that makes him behave in such a way. Maybe it's good to have this appreciation first, and then if they continue to, of course, if you find yourself in such a situation, then the first thing is not to react in the same manner towards that person or towards that situation. Otherwise, you do not, you contribute, you make it even worse. And then now, if you do not react in the same manner, then maybe you can try to listen to what this person has to say. Give him the opportunity to vent out, and then try to offer him a piece of advice or anything or so on. And if you do not find it in your, if you feel like you cannot do this, then the best thing is not to engage in the first place.
zamzam korangi tanda nedan tsubu chigwe nedan diya gyoro ya koran la shin gyoro sura kan ge lu ding kala bedo koran ma ba che ne kap chilen koran la testi sambai do shiro tarin dio and the day like.
So then from a practitioner's point of view, then when we say do not engage with such a person, then it does not mean that you are totally giving up on trying to help this person. So when we say disengage from that situation, it means that, as we already said, it's important to have an appreciation for the fact there are factors contributing to this person's behavior. Then if you disengage from that person for a bit, then these factors might change. The situation that he finds himself in might change. And then also we have to believe in that person's ability to think for himself, to calm down. So if you disengage from the person for the time being, then he might have the time to think about his actions on his own, and then he might come to a realization that what he did was wrong, and he might calm down. And then you begin to try to help this person by offering him a piece of advice and so on. So from a practitioner's point of view, we do not completely give up on interacting with this person, completely give up on this person's, on this person.
In case of assault, for example, so what will be the Buddhist way? Like me personally, I will fight for my life. But maybe in Buddhism it's for the
미수 니가 영화처럼 동가 영화죠. 근데 내가 지나서라 나와 있다 다시 간대요. 나 결국은 신나는 수동가 영화 파진사를.
남배기가 저도가 오니들 따라가다가 오늘 최냐면 제지는 너가 오니들 저가 공사에 시하고 있어라. 오늘 기초방문 다니နေတာ. 다만 3회 빠지는 가정과 동문을 넘서서 봐는디 가라 은혜로 지라. 이내 오늘 나저도 최 시작은 삼다 저는 오늘 나바다가 제일 그 냐면 지성시 배 쳤죠. 가기 제반제 바로 제가. 다가서 나한테 가서 미지 참부지는 가서 저거 공사를
So from the Buddhist perspective, for a genuine practitioner, then this is the perfect object of tolerance. When someone physically assaults you, you try to really practice forbearance or tolerance in that instance. But then for beginners like us, this is not possible. Immediately you see danger, you feel like, oh, why should I put myself in danger? So from the Buddhist perspective, for a genuine practitioner, of course, it serves as the perfect object of tolerance.
So he should let someone kill him? He should allow someone to really kill him or hurt him?
Verse 5 goes into that a lot.
But it's not about a should. I think it's a decision, right? If someone is in that place and they decide to let it be. So I don't think it's a should.
Like that?
Many people have done it.
Isn't there that story of when in one of Buddha's previous lives when he was on a boat and he had the vision that someone was going to kill everyone, so he killed the person?
Yes. 니마산지 주빈지가 총을래죠. 이 미지하게 소니가 통하는 미치세를 소총으로들이요.
단단들이 가셔도 그거야. 챔비시를 가서 춘중들 땅으로. 그래서 뭐부지 제시들 춘주지기 지도 챔버스를 다녀요.
So then the story that you are mentioning touches on to the point that's being made, wherein the other is always immense. And when we say the other is always immense, that they are countless. But in this situation, it makes the point that we should not sacrifice the lives of the majority for the sake of one person. So the other is always held as more precious, more important.
아니 그게 있어다. 지난해 산지기 추가인의 메시지들에 다다들어. 제단디 그런 걸로 가르라나. 단다 되면 이지체네 들어와. 계시 디면은 또 생기 메시지에 민갑듯이 있어. 민갑듯이 그녀는 도에 내지라. 근데 콜라 인지도 있다. 데미들 세 그거 못해와이나 거기는 겨와도 도. 대시도 걸로 되듯이. 아니 미 자세와단 직세와이 되는 지도 총아. 근데 가셔도 뭐 뭐지도 되더라. 어디 지들에 뭐도 저다기 줄이 안에 지지 메시지가 돼 나와요.
So then in this story, really it's touching on to the point that we made about weighing the pros and cons in an impossible situation and making the right decision. So when the Buddha in his previous life knew that this one person planned on killing all the 500 other people on the boat, then he knew that if he committed this act, then it would be sure that he would born, this one person would be born in the hell realm for a long time. And then if he kills, if the Buddha did nothing, then these 500 people are going to lose their lives. So he took it upon himself to make the decision that even if I am at the risk of being born in hell, I have the intention to save himself from being born in hell, and then to save the lives of 500 other people. So I made the decision to kill this person. Yes.
Actually, I've had this question from back from Copan. It was this same story. Until now, I had no understanding what happened, and I do not see any benefit in this action. First of all, I'm not sure if Bodhisattva or pre-Buddha went to hell after that for killing, but there was no benefit, first of all, for the 300 people who were not killed, as the karmic consequences were just postponed, otherwise they would have been killed. And for the person who was supposed to be killed, yes, probably he was the only benefactor of the whole action.
Kochua dins tengani ma goban nilang dela tosu chimbo yus chundela. Kaila na dina sukhanga penjo chitongo midus. Sanje ji misumja ngabja kaze socha ne dela ipyang tongo midus. Michi sejo dela da peje chi penyo jirisra. Konyala la maro egi misumja dela Quran zungwe ne da shiye gi ledo ju giras. Ledi goa do cheras. What is So then I cannot really say anything about that because that's your own interpretation of the story, and you're free to have an opinion about that.
I just want to say what I understand now, that the most important thing, and maybe I'm wrong, to be very mindful in whatever you do about what's your intention. Intention is like even more important than the deed itself. But always be mindful, but this is really difficult because we go through the day and we do a lot of things and we think a lot of things and we judge, like I'm judging all the time. Myself, others, I try to be aware of that, but what I see now is that the most important thing, and I want to know if it's true, is always, it's a big word, purify my intention, but at least know what my intention is. Is it true?
Tadi chiwado jida nyamdridra. So kulung la rali gyore la idirda. Kulung yanta bo gorves. Ni tanda morangi samna tanga chinasra. So jula chobale la ira. Ni kulung de pe kechimbo imbat tenge dus tanda geji shijuru zunera. Inya de pe khabore dus. Ni machinga la ram kulung sama bet yanta bo ji jundu ni ve khaboros. Ni de reves ra. Tuda borangi kulung la ta bo de kechimbo reves. Di geji
Kunu de kichambara chiragi leva yabuji chene duja chene dong sembal de kunu ki ha lo ji chou na de ji chi yin sam kunu de la ne ta ba yabuji chi yin sam kunu de ngela ma ta sam che ma da che che khabu tra tambu kana yabuji chene duja chene kunu de la gai.
So any meaningful action, whether it be virtuous or non-virtuous, depends on intention first developing in the mind. So then it's always important to check the intention first.
So if I steal bread, if I steal food, if I steal food from the shop in order to give it to a poor man, my intention is good, but the deed is not so good.
No, the deed is not good, but the intention is good.
So
But it's not just that. There are many things to build your karma.
That the day in Nasra, Tsungane Kala Kuma Jabsra, me Tsungane Kuma Jab, in a Gulun the mission, Jola Jimbatani.
Tishra leni samra kuma jaga de mi gyore mi maje mane bara jimbata de ya ni je nyam tanya sare.
So you're doing two things at the same time. You're committing a non-virtuous act and you're committing a virtuous act. So yeah, but that doesn't wash away the fact that you stole. So you do not really need to steal. Give what you have, what little you have, with a pure intention. That also helps.
아니 잘했다. 시바 단다 딜레도 먼저 미치기 갈라나 생각하고 저거 지다 아니가 그 밀어 저미 주는 일이다. 아니 지금 밀어 물리는 수치부 되는데 센슈얼인데 제단데 제단이 지상이 생기시고 매매나 야보다라 근데 미리 지어만 되어 있네요. 전부 저기 지부가 나서로 되다. 소스티고 대소스티고냐 대브로로드다 노래 대브로로는 소스티티원다 미치고들 야도 남들이 뱃지고 대야 많잖아 좀이 기장로 딱 쓸래 내가 누사에 로드 찜다 근데 그래 나서로 되다 근데 많이 지금 시골로 먼저 면상 하고 참고지라 이게 연상 집바로 못다 더저투는 아니 수들이 나서 말이야 생각으로 고용 거지 저기 지당이 지부디 시부도에 아포레데 zamde mile nyamdo ha hule dede kitchen boda shiso miten we mijindio
So then, moving on, then one of us talked about how they find it difficult to get along with other people, and then they tend to like kind of stick to themselves. And generally, it's maybe good to avoid commotions and crowded places and so on and so forth. But then, if we withdraw too much into ourselves, then we begin to suffer what is called a sense of loneliness, and then the ensuing mental kind of stress and mental depression that we suffer because we retreat too much into ourselves. And as human beings, we do need interaction with a society, and we do have the need to become active, contributing members of society. So then it's important. Generally, it might be good to take retreats and to like to kind of be by oneself. But then from time to time, it's good to have interaction with fellow human beings. It's very important for our mental well-being. And maybe it is good to first have a basic appreciation for the fact that I'm a human being, and as human beings, we are all the same. So if we have a thought like that first and contemplate on that, then we begin to become more interactive and become a little bit more social.
그런데 미카지 소스고 되더라 그래서 밀로 민념도 디스케트스 코나 막아지도 민남지 디스톤에 지금 말이도 내 차에 없어졌다 소스 집보를 라시기 미시도 넘가 되마도 소스 로스트한테 말이야 차이도 근데 마야 차야 치리요 그래도 믿어도
So then, many people who live in seclusion or who kind of like stick to themselves, when they come out into like what is called society, then when they come into like interaction with people they don't know, then they get irritated very easily, even though they don't have any interaction with the people. Just by looking at someone, they do not like the way that someone is looking at them, and even the smallest of like noise irritates them even more. So that maybe human interaction from time to time is important to kind of balance the thing.
지단기 믿은 대화시는 주연의 개말라 다만 그 지금 믿은 대화시는 직납고를 지금 두자는 게 되는 이야기야. 지난 믿은 대화시는 키랑이 레비 차도 코들 버시야 있어요. 이미 강의된 얘네 로바치야 있어요. 그래서 믿은 대화시와 두자 이미 잡았다.
So then shunning human interaction in its all form is not really good or practical or advisable, because we need human interaction. And then with the kind of interaction that we need to build up with fellow human beings is not to like engage in like non-virtuous deeds all the time. We try to make it a positive interaction, wherein we try to impart what good qualities we have to others, try to pick good qualities from others, and then try to help other people. So these are the interactions that we need to build.
아니 그거 수제도 쓰시라.
Sorry.
Sorry.